Hello, you're listening to Popcorn Podcast with Leigh and Tim, and in this week's episode we're reviewing Wonka, plus covering off all the latest movie and trailer news. I'm Timmy Fland, movie buff.
And I'm Lee Livingstone, entertainment journalist.
And we love to talk all things movies.
And gosh, we're so glad that you could join us.
Always so glad. Always so glad.
Wonka tells the wondrous prequel story of how a young chocolate maker and inventor, armed with nothing but a hat full of dreams, becomes the most iconic character at the centre of Roald Dahl's best-selling children's book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Wonka is written and directed by Paul King, who has brought us the absolutely delightful Paddington movies.
The movie stars Timothee Chalamet, Carla Lane, Olivia Colman, Sally Hawkins, Hugh Grant, Rowan Atkinson, Keegan-Michael Key, Patterson Joseph, Matt Lucas, Matthew Bainton, and so more. What a cast.
Lee, there's so much to unpack about Wonka, and one of the first things is, I guess, that age-old question where you ask yourselves about, you know, big studio filmmaking who have lucrative and popular IP, you know, at their fingertips, and also uncovering the intentions behind what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is right, to make money, okay? We're in a capitalist society. They've got very, very shiny IP, and Wonka is one of them.
Commercialism,
hooray! You know, and to feed off our lust for nostalgia, right? And one of the first questions I kind of like asked myself when we learnt of this news a couple of years ago was, do we need a prequel to learn the origins of Willy Wonka? Who asked for this movie? Do we need it? It's like an overarching statement. Like, I'm so glad we got it.
But he's such an interesting character. Like, there's no doubt about it. And Gene Wilder played him in such a fascinating way in the 1971 film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's ripe for picking, isn't it? It's ripe for delving into. And let's dive into whether they did a successful job of it or not.
Yes, I think they did. I was so happy with it. Even all my criticisms about IP and lusting for our nostalgia, I was absolutely delighted and pleasantly surprised by this movie in every way.
You know what? I had a feeling that you would love this film. I said that to you. We didn't get to see it together, unfortunately, but I was very excited for you to see this film because I thought you would enjoy it. And I did too. I found it, as you said, utterly delightful, put a smile on my face. I came out of the cinema just, you know, really happy.
You did kind of break a rule, because obviously our listener knows that our rule is that even though we see all these movies together, we don't actually share our thoughts on them until the microphone is hot. But you did break a little rule going, I think you're really going to like Wonka. It was just really delightful. So, yeah, I mean, that was actually quite comforting to me because I was actually really on the back foot with this one. Okay. So you gave me some hope before I got to see it.
Having said that, though, it's not a perfect film by any means. It is entertaining. It is enjoyable. But Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is one of the best-selling books of all time, right? So there are going to be opinions, capital O, about this film.
Yes.
The one that we're seeing most often at the moment is that there isn't that darkness to the character of Willy Wonka. You know, as we mentioned, Gene Wilder played him so brilliantly as a tormented recluse with this just like little hint of sinister about him. And then we had Johnny Depp's version, obviously, which was completely unhinged, as you would expect from any...
So unhinged. A Tim Burton, Johnny Depp co-production.
As you would expect. But this is a time when he's unjaded. You know, he's young.
Yes.
He's got dreams. He wants to become the world's best chocolate maker. He's the epitome of dreamer, basically. You know, for example, he loses all his money in one day and he's still smiling. And that is the character. That is the point of this character at this point in time of his life.
All he has is a magical hat full of dreams, as is, you know, lyrically told and shown in the opening scenes of the movie. Yes, it's an interesting take, and I mean, that's what we get delivered. We don't get delivered a jaded, slightly insane Willy Wonka that Gene Wilder so iconically delivered some, 50 years ago.
Eccentric.
Absolutely eccentric. And yeah, he's unjaded, he's fresh. He wants to just share his chocolate recipes with the world. He just wants people to love chocolate as much as he does, and his really unique, special, magical twist on a classic is something that he is just so excited to share with the world.
And there's a lot of silly in this film, isn't there? It's definitely a family film. You know, like from the names of the characters to, you know, chocoholic monks that guard this secret vault of chocolate. It's very in keeping with the style of Roald Dahl. So I think they nailed that really well. You know, like the nice officer's name in the film is Officer Affable. Mrs. Scrubbit is a washer lady. Bleacher is her gross offsider. You know, Lottie Bell used to work in a telephone exchange. Piper Benz was a plumber. Abacus was an accountant. I could go on and on and on. There's this whimsical quality to the characters and what happens in the film that I think is very in keeping with Roald Dahl.
Absolutely. And in keeping with that and through the vessels of it's something simple like a character's name, which elicits a joyous reaction, there is so much heart and humor and just so much joy.
Yeah.
I found myself just bowled over by its charm and sense of endearment. And that's not just exclusively because it was a musical. It's just how the world is realized visually and audibly. I think just all those ingredients that came together.
It is important to mention that this is a musical. I mean, I'm sure people know that anyway. You would expect that.
Do they though?
You would expect that because there's a lot of talk at the moment about way films are being marketed and musicals are being flown under the radar because they don't test well in focus groups. So they're kind of hiding when things are musicals in the marketing to encourage, almost trick people into going to the cinema.
Yeah, I don't like that though.
No.
And we've talked about this at length on the podcast. I don't like being slightly manipulated by marketing. I totally hear what you're saying about test audiences and focus groups and all the rest of it. But if you have a musical and you happen to have a really good one on your hands, why don't you endorse and market it as such and get people excited and welcome them in to give them a little flavor, for lack of a better word, of what they could experience for 2 hours? And I just find that really bizarre. I actually had a friend who messaged me after seeing Wonka and said, I legitimately had no idea it was a musical until they started singing. And they're like, oh, okay, this is a musical. All right. But they went in completely unawares that it was a musical. And I think that's wrong.
Had they never seen the original?
Yes. But I mean, this is the point that we're making here, is that it wasn't made clear overtly at all that this version of the story was also a musical too.
I think the issue is that every studio is trying to appeal to the largest possible demographic and get everyone in. But, you know, own the movie you've made. It might be niche. And this isn't niche. This will apply to a wide range of people, even if it is a musical. But you don't need to hedge your bets so largely. Just back it, back what you've made and stand beside it and be proud of it.
One of the things I want to pull out from what you said was how it will speak to a wide audience. And I think from my perspective, the film captures really perfectly our love of chocolate as like humans, that universality of it. And it does a great job in positioning chocolate as an otherworldly delight.
Yeah.
So I really loved how chocolate was just so elevated. I mean, of course, it's the chocolate of Willy Wonka, but it was just so exciting, and you could absolutely relate to, you know, that chocolate that you just love, and when you discover something different and everyone's got their all unique sentiments about it. I thought that was really well done here.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to this nostalgic time when you're a kid and chocolate was a treat. Like now when you're an adult, you can just get it whenever you want and it's not as special. But when you're a kid, getting that like one chocolate at night, that was really, really special. It speaks to that sort of time of nostalgia, which is really, really nice. Having said all these wonderful things that we're saying about the film, I expected more of this origin story.
Okay.
You know, when we meet Willy Wonka, he's coming home from this wild ingredient collecting 7-year adventure. Like literally one of the first lines of the film is a song about how he's been away for 7 years. And he's already discovered his passion and he's determined to make his mark. So we didn't get to see any of him coming into that special period and what makes him him. You know, we got a bit of a flashback about his mother and his love of chocolate, and that's great. But, you know, why can't he read? There was this silly plot device in there that served absolutely no purpose.
Just on the not reading thing, you are right in that what real purpose to the story or plot does it hold? But I think the beauty and the gorgeousness of that particular element of the story has to do with character and the relationship that Noodle and Willy Wonka have together, and the fact that even though he comes with this lust for life and this absolute eccentric energy about chocolate and wanting people to love it as much as him and discover it. There are some really like simple things about that you take for granted in being able to read. And he is quite receptive and open to be offered help.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a really nice gesture of two human beings sort of teaching and learning from each other. And yes, it's bizarre that he doesn't know how to read. I don't understand why, but I actually quite enjoyed that really lovely layer of it, that he was being taught how to read.
I just think there's this missed opportunity there in the wild world of where he's been. Like there could have been all these colourful, exotic locations and him discovering his love for engineering. Like he's this wonderful inventor and he just already is that. Where did that come from? Where did his love come of inventing? And we saw a bit of the magician in him when he was younger and how he would use that to entertain his mother. Yeah, if it's going to be an origin story, where's the origins of him? You know, we got the origins of how he built his factory, which was great, but where is the actual origin stories of Willy Wonka?
So do we need a prequel for the prequel next as the sequel?
I guess that's
to the
what
prequel?
I'm saying, isn't it? Yeah. There are a few contrived plot devices too. I mean, characters kind of get from A to B in ways that aren't really necessary but play into that silly fun and that cartoonish kind of heist movie vibe that it has. It's full of chase sequences and funny things. Like at one point they let a giraffe into a church for what purpose? Like that seemed like a very over the top, out of the way distraction.
Right. Just a reason for Rowan Atkinson to flail his arms hysterically like he does so well.
Yeah. I mean, of all things, come on.
Yeah.
So things like that don't land as well as the whimsy of the story and the locations and things. But I guess it's a small thing, isn't it?
Well, no, like I actually think you make absolute sense. I just personally don't have an issue with the fact that there are gaps in that discovery because I just felt like Willy Wonka, although he still had so much to learn and discover about himself and the world, because he comes in with a bit of naivety to him, doesn't he? Like he has to sort of Noodle has to introduce him to the reality of life. He has, like you mentioned, been gone for 7 years picking coca beans. You know, he's really not been exposed to society and what it takes, what happens as part of it, and that, you know, life isn't fair. He's coming in going, all right, everyone needs to love my chocolate. It's like, hold on, just there's some shit going down that you need to be receptive to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was just really, really swept up by this movie, and I don't come with those sort of criticisms, but I totally hear what you mean. There's probably some more you would have just liked to have seen, maybe because you're enjoying it so much. It's like, I want to see him discover more about himself.
And there's this rich area between him and the Oompa Loompa. And, you know, I mean, they do go into a little bit of a backstory there. But, yeah, there's so much fertile ground there for an origin story that you could have had this wild, exotic, international adventure movie instead of it being set in the dreary streets of, I don't know, a kind of London town. It wasn't quite London, but it was some kind of European London-inspired town.
Very European. It wasn't meant to be a single place, but I was getting flavours of Paris as well. Yeah, visually we'll talk about that in a moment. But can I talk about some criticisms about the story? Minute ones from my perspective was, and it could just come from a lapse in concentration from me because this story is quite fast moving and you get a lot of plot progression in lyrics because it is a musical. A lot of the story is told through song. So you have to pay attention. But I felt like there were quite quick moments through the lyrics that revealed certain plot points that were character related that I missed, and I felt a bit disconnected from that sort of, that leap, that sort of jump that you're like, okay, they've gone from A to B, but how I don't actually know how they got from A to B. So there were just some things that I was like, oh, what is that about Noodle and this and just a few of those things that I felt I needed to ask questions after, basically.
Yeah, so they're using the lyrics as an exposition, basically.
Yeah, and you blink and you miss it sometimes, and I felt like they probably could have served the audience maybe a little more if it was, you know, not just like put on a silver platter for you, but maybe referenced again just to clarify it.
Lucky it wasn't a Lin-Manuel Miranda production because you'd never be able to catch on to the lyrics.
Oh my God. You need subtitles. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite songs of his. Banger.
Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Lin-Manuel Miranda.
He is absolute genius.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, jokes aside.
Speaking of genius, let's talk about Chalamet, because I know that you're a big fan of him in general as an actor. You know, he has this charismatic likability as the character and this perpetual innocence that the role needs. I think he's going to be stuck in this kind of innocent role for the rest of his life, the young ingenue.
I just, to build on your point, I am a huge avid fan of Timothée Chalamet. His range as an actor is just extraordinary. I mean, he can be eating humans in one movie and then eating chocolate with delight in another.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Hey, and maybe not so innocent after all.
Maybe not so. It's called Bones and All, and he's quite literally a cannibal. It's an excellent, excellent, dark, twisted, fucked up movie. So if you do get queasy over small cuts on knees, then that ain't the movie for you, friends.
No.
But I want to talk about what you think of his singing and dancing abilities, because we've never seen him do anything like this before.
No, I mean, his voice might be a little bit thin. I'm no singing expert. I'm definitely not good at singing myself, but he's light on his feet. He's not a bad singer, I don't think. And he plays the early evolution of this character just so well. It's delightful. We keep using the word delightful, and it is delightful.
Yes, and that's a word that you cannot avoid when describing a Paul King film either. When you think about the products that he's given us in Paddington and Paddington 2 and then now Wonka, delightful is a word that is top of mind. I thought Chalamet's voice was very strong. I was quite surprised by his singing chops. And the choreography was quite well done. I don't think he's a particularly overly strong dancer, but it worked for this movie. And he had the backing of a huge ensemble dance crew that sort of elevated the film visually from a choreography perspective. So I think it came together really well like that.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. We have to talk about the little orange man in the room. Hugh Grant.
Please.
He describes the Oompa Loompa as a curmudgeonly old bastard and then says that's his specialty. And truer words were never spoken.
Yeah, that is Hugh Grant.
This don't give a fuck vibe that Grant is throwing off in interviews these days, and his performances is just utterly hilarious, and it works. And it's really clever too, because that's what a lot of people are going to see the film for.
Yes, absolutely. There was some trepidation about this role when we were first introduced to him in the trailer, but how he is introduced and is peppered throughout the movie, I think there's the perfect amount of Oompa Loompa, the perfect amount of Hugh Grant, the perfect amount of his cheeky, mischievous, cunning and wit. He was just sensational in this role.
Yeah, that dry, acerbic wit that he has is just so funny. And when he starts singing and he's like, oh, no, can't stop once I've started. You got to listen. Oompa Loompa.
And I think, they're peppering in all this nostalgia, that classic Oompa Loompa Oompa Dee Doo. Like, you cannot get that song out of your head, even if you try, or whatever. Too many syllables there. You know what I'm trying to do. Yep. And it was good. It was used to great effect. It didn't feel cheap. It didn't feel like they were just reaching to elicit a reaction. I think in how it all showed up with how his portrayal and what we know or maybe not know about the Oompa Loompa character, I think it was, perfect balance of all those things.
Yep. We also have the incredible Sally Hawkins as Willy Wonka's mother. That woman can do no wrong, honestly. I love everything that she's in. She is sublime in the flashbacks as Willy's late mother. Really pulls on the heartstrings. She's in a handful of scenes, but my God, you feel her.
Oh, I've got the Popcorn Podcast chills right now as you're recounting her role as Wonka's mum. I just get emotional thinking about this small bit part that packs such a profound emotional punch. I did tear up at the end of the film. Yeah. I did. I was very emotional, and I thought, gee, she's had less screen time than Dame Judi Dench did in Shakespeare in Love, and
and Cats.
I don't know. Will she win an Oscar? Maybe not that far, but I don't know. It was a profound impact. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, yep. And then of course, equally as amazing as Olivia Colman as this fantastic, vile Mrs. Scrubbit. And she's relishing, you can just tell, she's relishing playing someone so dastardly.
Yes. God, isn't she just divine
Yeah.
to watch? I mean, it's so great watching all these veteran actors. You mentioned Sally and Hugh. You've also got Ronan Keating in there, Matt Lucas.
Rowan
But then
Atkinson, not
you
Ronan
have Olivia
Keating.
Colman. Sorry?
You said Ronan Keating, not Rowan Atkinson.
Did I?
Life is a roller coaster. Just gotta ride it.
All night long. Yeah, so Rowan Atkinson, thank you, Leigh, not Ronan Keating. You know when you get on a roll and you just don't know what's coming out your mouth? That was literally that was happening.
Are you going to keep that in, are you?
Gotta keep it in, yeah.
Are we keeping that in?
Yeah, she's just so nasty and dirty, and you know, you've just got these great character actors on screen together, and it's just so fun to watch them have fun in these wacky roles that only come from the world of Roald Dahl, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the standout by miles, though, is Colour Lane as the orphaned Noodle. She's a sidekick, Charlie Bucket-like character who helps Wonka. And so she's kind of a callback of sorts to the 1971 movie and how Wonka is drawn to these kids who remind him of how he grew up making the best of his poverty and how they do the same.
And what I really liked the two-hander between them, because I think as we mentioned earlier, Wonka comes in with this, I think you use the word innocence, I use the word naivety. He's just very trusting, isn't he? But Noodle is a bit more rational. She's been living in a world, things haven't been particularly kind to her. So she gets taken on this wonderful journey, but then also helps Wonka through things. And she's just a little actress to watch for sure. So I was really impressed by her work.
And then there's this parade of villains and supporting characters that don't stand out as much, but they all contribute into the puzzle piece of this film. The chocolate box, if you will. It's a mixed chocolate box.
Life is like a box of chocolates. Never know what you're going to get.
Wonka movie is like a box of chocolates. Music. Let's talk about the music.
Yes, we absolutely have to, given that it's a musical, don't we, Leigh?
We should, yeah. Alongside the familiar Pure Imagination and Oompa Loompa theme, we have 6 new songs composed for this film. Not a lot of singing and dancing in that context. Like when you think about the fact that there's 6 songs and a callback or two to the original film, it's not actually all that musical.
You know what? That actually surprises me, because when you just said 6, I thought surely not. It felt like there were more than 6 songs. It felt quite nicely well-rounded, but I mean, that's the balance of it not being an operatic musical, right, where they sing talk the whole time, like maybe Les Mis. Yeah, 6 really surprises me. That's not that many songs for a musical movie.
No, so if you're sitting on the fence of seeing it because you don't like musicals, it's not going to be that painful for you.
Because, yes, naturally some people find musicals a bit insufferable. I think this one is safe from that sentiment. You mentioned Pure Imagination. I kind of half expected that song to show up as an end credit song only, because we don't get it until right at the end of the movie, and that's not necessarily a spoiler. I loved hearing it peppered throughout the score. You got flavors of that classic orchestral, so that was nice and welcoming and familiar. But the double meaning of the lyrics at the end just surprised me in how they used the song perfectly. And it just said so much more than I've ever heard it say to me before.
Yeah, it was the perfect moment, and it gave it another meaning.
And it further cements itself as one of the greatest cinema songs of all time.
And in that end moment, we get this lovely wrapping up of a bow where we get to see the factory start to come to life, the famous factory. And that brings us to the sets, the incredible sets that were built for this film. More than 50 were built.
Crazy.
And as we said before, the style is not anywhere in particular, but it's imagined as a mix of Belgian, Czech, French, German, and sort of Swiss architecture, with a bit of London's, wrong side of the tracks mixed in.
Governor.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of that too.
Shine your shoes, governor.
Well, quite literally, that's part of the reason why Wonka lost all his pennies at the beginning of the movie, because this little fella was shining his shoes every time he put his foot down.
Hustling him out of money.
That's right. Did you love the look and feel of this movie? I admire filmmaking where they are encouraged to put as much in camera as possible. These sets felt lived in.
Yep.
They were inviting. They were the perfect backdrop for the fantastical, magical nature of this world that Paul King had created, and the actors to live in, and the musical numbers. It was just gorgeous to look at.
Just gorgeous. And the biggest challenge, I guess, is making the chocolate look real and delicious. And they actually made a lot of the chocolates for real. Things like, the teacup that he takes a bite out of. That's a callback to the 1971 film, whereas Gene Wilder had to bite into a wax cup to make it look like chocolate.
Really?
They actually made a chocolate teacup now. Like, things have come so far that these incredible artisans made a chocolate teacup for Timothy to bite into.
Oh my God. So Gene Wilder literally bit into a candle?
Basically. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
But all the sets as well, like the sets in Willy Wonka's shop early on in the film, like making flowers look edible, and this tree and this river, like all these beautiful things from his childhood that he's reimagining as chocolate. And obviously they couldn't make everything chocolate because you have to be practical, costs and all that kind of jazz. But they had to make it look edible. And it did. It was delicious. I would have taken a bite out of one of those flowers.
Did the lights come on and you were like gnawing on your cinema seat, just pretending that it was chocolate?
Nom, 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 nom.
Nom, nom, nom. Yeah, incredible work from Nathan Crowley, the production designer, and his team. The sets were lavish, gorgeous, and at some points delicious, like you've described.
Delicious indeed. Have we covered off everything, Tim?
Yeah, I think we've given it a good enough stab in the dark. I think our listener knows what we thought about this film.
Yeah.
So maybe we wrap it up.
Have we helped you make up your mind about whether to see this film? Let's do a wrap up and just cement that, shall we?
Let's do it. So Wonka is the most surprising cinema delight of the year for me. I was very unsure going in, and I came out with the biggest grin on my face and the remnants of a tear upon my cheek. It is charming, whimsical, and so much fun. Chalamet delivers with the singing chops and the heavy weight of following the legacy of Gene Wilder's most iconic role as Wonka. Director Paul King proves once again that he has cornered the market in family films that deliver on wonder and heart, appealing to all. It's not the chocolate that matters, it's the people that you share it with. I highly recommend you check this one out. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? I'm going to rate Wonka 4 popcorn kernels out of 5, Leigh.
Oh, I think my teeth just fell out because that was so sugary sweet, Tim. My goodness.
Got a book in the dentist at 2:30.
2:30.
2:30.
Wonka is a delightful story that maybe won't satisfy the sweet tooth of Roald Dahl purists, but it will have families going back for a second helping in years to come. The dark soul of Willy Wonka is missing, but it's supposed to be, and it's replaced with the family fun style of Paddington director Paul King. But every box of chocolates has that one flavour that no one really wants. And in Wonka's case, it's the failure to show how such an inspired inventor developed his phantasmagorical engineering skills and how he came to pair that with his chocolate-making passion. It's a missed opportunity setting the story in the mean streets of this London-adjacent city, especially when there could have been more adventurous antics with the hilarious Hugh Grant Oompa Loompa. I'm going to give Wonka 3.5 popcorn kernels out of 5.
You know what? That's a great wrap up, and we would love to hear, your thoughts on this film. It could be divisive for all the reasons that you listed out, those sort of Roald Dahl purists. So slide into our DMs. We'd love to hear from you.
And Wonka is in Australian cinemas from December 14.
Let's launch into our news and trailer section of the episode, Leigh. One of the year's most anticipated trailers finally saw the light of day, and we were both absolutely floored by what we saw.
That is correct. Aussie filmmaking legend George Miller dropped the first trailer for his highly anticipated follow-up to Mad Max Fury Road, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Say that 5 times fast, grouped like that. The film serves as an origin story of renegade warrior Furiosa before her encounter and team up with Mad Max, most recently played by Tom Hardy and originally Mel Gibson in the 70s and the 80s.
So the prequel to the 2015 Oscar-winning and box office smash stars Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, originally played by Charlize Theron, and a very different-looking Chris Hemsworth as the baddie, Dementus.
Yeah, playing against type Hemsworth's dons a prosthetic nose, a la Nicole Kidman in The Hours, perhaps one might say, making the homegrown Hollywood superstar almost unrecognisable.
The film was shot locally in Sydney, Australia, actually just around the corner from us, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We went past the set a couple of times to have a squiz.
Yeah, you sent me photos of basically a fence. There wasn't much to see. Oh, thanks for sharing.
No, I could see more out the sunroof. I was out the sunroof.
Fun.
But Furiosa promises to be even more action-packed than its predecessor, with a focus on in-camera stunts and action, with even more insane production design and spectacle.
Absolutely. That's what George Miller delivers. The action-packed adventure is expected to hit Australian cinemas in May of 2024, friends.
Now, listener, Sydney's most stunning outdoor cinema, Westpac Open Air, has released its full lineup for the 2024 season, launching with Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, starring Kaylee Spaney and Jacob Elordi.
So excited by this. Also premiering will be Force of Nature, The Dry 2 with Eric Bana, Anna Torv and Deborah Lee Furness, and National Theatre Live Dear England starring Joseph Fiennes and Gina McKee. Special preview screenings include black comedy drama May December with Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, and The Great Escaper starring Sir Michael Caine, and spy thriller Argyle.
That was quite impressive.
Thanks.
The outdoor cinema is perched on Sydney Harbour's foreshore, and it's truly a unique experience where you can watch some of 2024's most anticipated films, as well as recent releases like Barbie and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, set against these incredible panoramic views of Sydney Harbour.
I want to go and see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning there. I reckon that'd be unreal.
Amazing.
You know what? They should put Mission Impossible 2 because that was filmed in Sydney.
Yes.
That'd be cool. Right, you heard it here first, Westpac Open Air. We expect it. It all kicks off from January 10 and you can get tickets and further information on the program at westpacopenair.com.au.
It's time for Moira Shit's favourite season, guys. It's awards season, baby. The
One
Golden...
of my favourite lead-ins.
Yeah. The Golden Globe nominations have been released and the film categories are stacked as usual.
Absolutely stacked. We'll just go through the big ones for now, as no doubt there'll be, so much discussion as further nominations roll out. Best Picture Drama nominations include Oppenheimer, no surprise there. We've got Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Past Lives, The Zone of Interest, and Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah, it's looking like Maestro is a real front runner. I mean, Oppenheimer too, but Maestro seems to be the front runner.
And Maestro is a bit more top of mind because it's only kind of just hitting the award circuit and release. So, there's a lot of talk about Bradley Cooper's latest film for sure.
Best Picture Musical or Comedy, we've got Barbie, Poor Things, American Fiction, The Holdovers, May December, and Air. It's interesting that Air is in there.
Oh, I quite liked Air. I think it makes sense.
As a musical or comedy?
Well, comedy. It's funny. Yeah, I was lolling throughout.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is the thing about the Golden Globes. The separation between drama and musical or comedy is a really fine line. It's kind of how some actors get put forward for Best Supporting Actor versus Best Actor. Some of them are like the main actor in the movie, but they have more of a chance to win the award. It's just how the studios want to pitch them. So I feel the same about these categories sometimes.
What's the front runner in this one, do you think?
I'm hearing amazing buzz from on the Holdovers. It seems to be like the Stephen Bradbury of the award season. It's kind of only just coming out and everyone's talking about it and loving it.
Poor Things is looking like a front runner too. Emma Stone's performance is incredible.
I can't wait to see that one. Absolutely can't wait.
In the Best Director category, we've got Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Celine Song for Past Lives.
I really, really hope that Greta Gerwig is acknowledged here, even though I didn't really like Barbie, controversially. I didn't think it was all that great. But she offered an incredible vision and it's one of the greatest success stories in recent times, whole Barbenheimer thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if she takes it.
Best performance by an actor in a motion picture drama has Bradley Cooper, Cillian Murphy, Leonardo DiCaprio, Colman Domingo, Andrew Scott, and Barry Keoghan.
I'm hearing amazing things about Bradley Cooper. I feel like it may be a race between him and Cillian Murphy. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think they're definitely up there. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio is like, his performances are always so good, expectedly so. Like, it's almost like a Meryl Streep situation in that everybody expects them to just deliver top quality every time. And so it's not as special. And so they don't get nominated, which sucks, doesn't it? But
yeah, and look, he's amazing in Killers of the Flower Moon, but I do think that there are some other performances in there that stand out more. Let's talk about Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture Drama with Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. She is absolutely exceptional in that film.
Yeah.
Doesn't shadow Leo, but is the strong performance in there.
Yeah.
We have Carey Mulligan for Maestro, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Annette Bening for Naiad, Greta Lee for Past Lives, and Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla.
yeah, I think you're right. I think Lily Gladstone is the clear front runner in that category. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. We've got Fantasia Barrino for The Colour Purple, which we haven't even seen yet, really.
No.
Jennifer Lawrence for No Hard Feelings. Natalie Portman for May December. Alma Poisty for Fallen Leaves. Margot Robbie for Barbie. And Emma Stone for Poor Things. And I think Emma Stone's got this one.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Margot sweeps in and takes the trophy for Barbie.
Yeah.
What do you think of Jennifer Lawrence and No Hard Feelings? I feel like that's just a Golden Globe sort of get because she hadn't made a movie in a while. She's very, very popular. The movie is good and she's excellent in it. The nomination's weird.
But the same for Emma Stone. You know, she hasn't made a movie in a while either. And isn't it funny that like her and Jennifer are best friends?
Yes,
And they're going up
they
against
are.
each other. It's really good.
Oh, I didn't put that two and two together. I can't wait to see them on the red carpet and the award circuit.
Yeah,
That's going to
yeah.
be good fun.
Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. We've got Nicolas Cage for Dream Scenario, Timothée Chalamet for Wonka, Matt Damon for Air, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Joaquin Phoenix for Beau is Afraid, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. I mean, there's some good ones in there. I always want to see Nicolas Cage win. I feel like Paul Giamatti could have it.
Yes, he is the front runner at the moment, and I think Nicolas Cage for Dream Scenario, it's one of my favourite roles of his in recent years.
Yeah. It's so good,
it's
isn't
so
it? I
good.
can't wait till we
It's so
talk
good.
about this film. We haven't actually talked about this film yet in
No.
recording land. It's coming up very soon. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that film.
Yes, me too. That is, you just got to go and see it.
Yeah.
It's out on January 1, so that's our plug for Dream
Yeah.
Scenario right here, right now. It's fucking insane.
And if you're listening to this episode after January 1, please go and check out our review of it because it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of award season, the 96th Oscars will begin 1 hour early, friends, with the official show starting, at 10 a.m. on Monday, March 11th here on the east coast of Australia.
Yeah, so the show is notorious for running longer than the allotted 3 hours, no matter what they do to try and keep proceedings tight. It never happens. They try and play people off. They try and like keep things moving fast. Maybe this means they'll relax a little bit and we'll get a bit more entertainment out of the show. I mean, because
That would be good.
it got to the stage where it was just like category, and then maybe a bit of a monologue and category, which gets a bit boring. So yeah. Category. This will give it a little bit more breathing room, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah, I endorse this change. Well, also, Jimmy Kimmel is returning to host for the 4th time. He's done it a few times now. And we can expect the nominations to be announced on January 23. It's the most wonderful time of the year for Leigh and I, so I'm counting down.
Award season.
Oh my God, gimme. I can't believe we're already talking about award season. I'm just so giddy with excitement.
That means 2024 is already around the corner and I'm not ready.
Please make it stop.
Stop, I want to get off.
Oh, well, that's another jam-packed episode of Popcorn Podcast, Leigh, where we talked about Wonka, which is in cinemas from December 14.
Yes, make sure you check it out. And as Tim said, slide into our DMs and let us know what you thought of the film.
We always love hearing from our listeners. Thank you so much for listening, friends.
We'll catch you next time. Come and join in the conversation. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at Popcorn Podcast.